Hello, my name is Megan Hoffman, and today I will be presenting on Ogawa Kazumasa. He is the man of many firsts. As you can see here at the top, Katsuma is a nickname that he went by sometimes instead of Ogawa or Katsumasa. So Ogawa Kazumasa was an artist, photographer, and man of many firsts. He was born in the Oshi domain in 1860, now known as the Saitama Prefecture. For a fun tidbit, he was actually born into a family that contained some of the last samurai. At a young age, Ogawa was intrigued by the civilization of the Western world and their photographical practices. For instance, photomechanical and reproduction in the calotype. So photomechanical printing is when there is a mechanical reproduction of a photographic image that is printed in ink. Of course, at this time, most cases, these images were created by a printing press. This was during the Meiji era in Japan, which was the first half of the Empire of Japan in which social, political, and economical change created a major shift in the Japanese culture. Growing up, he experimented with photography and paints, where he eventually got his first studio in Tomioka in 1877 at the age of 17. A key transformation period in his life is when he decided to travel to the US to learn new and advanced photography information that he would eventually take back with him from the Western world to implement into his home country of Japan. While in America, the one technique that stands out, and I mentioned earlier, in regards to what he brought back with him to Japan, was the calotype process. The calotype process is a photomechanical printing process to show shades in different tones. The process involves covering a glass plate, and if you can see in this image over here, these are the glass plates, or this is where the glass plate goes, and these are the ink distributors that go over top of the glass plate. So the glass plate is covered with a gelatinous substance with light sensitive gelatin on top of it. It is then left to dry at a temperature of about 122 degrees Fahrenheit. Before he died in 1929, he introduced Japan to many photographical techniques in the photomechanical sphere, as well as the use of calotypes and addition of color after the photo was taken or captured. Katsumasa strongly advocated the theory that photography was and is the most effective medium for sharing and spreading information, actually starting his own magazine, which lasted for a very long time. So he was the first to bring many photomechanical techniques to Japan, influencing and revolutionizing the photography methods that Japan had adopted later on. He also had he covered a very wide scope of photography and types of photography throughout his life. Here are two calotype books that he had made, or collections that he had taken. This one on the left is The Lilies of Japan, and the one on the right we would talk a little bit about more in a minute. So another, like I mentioned earlier, the color after the photo was captured. From his original calotype printings, Ogawa would add color by placing pigment over top of the original, enhancing the monotoned areas to make flowers more lifelike. Depicted here, you can see that everything is monotoned and that there are some darker and lighter areas that could possibly show a different color. And here you can see the different colorization. With this, you can tell it is a lily, and like his calotype book earlier, lilies were some of his most common and popular works. I loved lilies especially, but he also created images and captured images of different flowers as well, and different plants. A controversial topic within the work of Ogawa Kazumasa is his colotype album, Types of Japan Celebrated Geisha of Tokyo by Ogawa in phototype and from photographic negative taken by him. This depicts picture after picture, or as he referred to it as, beautiful women. From these photos, he had competitions where viewers could vote for the most beautiful woman as a subject in his photos. Each of these photos were generally staged in the same way, as you can see here. And this was to limit, I guess, the distraction from the female beauty, so that only the beauty in the body of the female was exposed rather than the setting. He also included photos showing stereotypes of the Japanese culture and things that would attract outside viewers and tourists. For instance, he included images of the tallest building in Tokyo or the newest building in Tokyo. In turn, he was making money off of using these geisha and depicting stereotypical elements of Japanese culture by appealing to the male sexual intrigue and also tourism. Even though some of his methods were possibly questionable, he shared some of the culture of Japan with the rest of the world, pushing and implementing the industrial sharing of different worldly cultures. This is another image of geisha where he had added color to it. It would also be an image found in a colotype collection like the one before. Beyond the photomechanical reproduction techniques, portraiture, and using photographs as informative mediums, Ogawa took part in many different fields within the scope of photography. Kazumasa was a chief photography instructor for the Sino and Russo-Japanese Wars. As you can see here, there's his two colotypes. He created newspapers and magazines, went on an expedition to capture the solar eclipse, and so much more. These are the collections of colotypes, and within these books, you can see a Japanese presence, like a Japanese bias, most likely because he himself is Japanese, and the people he was working for, the government, was also on the Japanese side. Okay, for this bias, as an example, this image is in the Fall of Port Arthur section, showing that the Japanese are marching and fighting in an orderly fashion, whereas the Chinese soldiers are disheveled and more unorganized. So the bias from the home team generally is present in most war photography, as we've seen earlier in this semester, and from many wars in many different places all over the world. So other than the medium of newspapers and his colotype books, he also just created captured regular photos. These are some landscapes that he had created back in his day. And then here is my favorite. I just wanted to add it in the end because I really like this photo. It's very pretty. I like the purple shades of the wisteria. I also wanted to note that his flower colotypes are still very popular today. They are often used as the background of an iPhone in advertisements and things like that. There are also many versions or reprints that are reimagined on Etsy, which eventually made it hard for me to find his real photos, or not just a reimagined version of it, because it's often Etsy creates their own images based on Ogawa's original capturings of, and they were made in someone's makeshift living room studio. So just wanted to preface that. Well, thank you.